The next 10 JRPGs aren't highly rated in the popular websites, and they should be. They're all fantastic games, and what's best is that they're also great gateways for beginners out there. So here are 10 underrated JRPGs for beginners, and speaking about beginning, let's begin! Number 10, Tales of Eternia. Eternia actually has the rating it deserves. It's no masterpiece, but it's still rated positively. Why then is it featured in this video? Because honestly, everybody's going to recommend nearly any other Tales game for beginners, especially the ones available on modern systems, remasters included. Well, if you wanna go old school and begin with a classic action RPG, Eternia is a good place to start. It's on PS1, mistakenly localized as Tales of Destiny 2, which goes for stupid prices nowadays. The PSP remaster isn't cheap, but it's nowhere near as expensive as the original version. You also need to keep in mind this game is retro, which means there are random encounters. Too many battles will wear you out in a couple of hours, so take it easy the first time, okay? It's got a charming story with interesting cast of characters that aren't as flamboyant as other tales in the series. Soundtrack by Motoi Sakuraba is pretty decent, and graphically speaking, the game aged really well. Here's hoping Bandai Namco remasters this gem one day alongside its outdated predecessors. Number 9, Am Setsuna. I never felt Setsuna was supposed to be the second coming of Jesus Christ. I say this because everybody had their expectations all the way up to the sky when this was announced. It was never supposed to be a AAA Chrono Trigger successor or anything, and you could tell from the trailers it was merely a love letter to classic turn-based JRPGs. So without expecting anything, I played it and fell in love with it immediately. I believe it didn't get the ratings it deserved precisely because of those high expectations. If you go into this game thinking only that it looks pretty and that it's turn-based, chances are you'll appreciate it way more. And it works wonders for beginners since it's balanced, it's easy to understand and get into, and it progressively starts getting more challenging, but with a natural pacing. You will have to grind a bit at some point, especially near the end, but didn't I say this was a love letter to classics? And those classics were all a bit grindy at least, so that's okay. Nowadays you can find this game on Switch, PS4 and Steam. There was a PS Vita version, but it never came out of Japan. Number 8, Sakura Wars. I know some of you will be turned off by a certain characteristic that stands out in this game that I'll mention in a bit, but before you skip to the next game, let me make my case. Sure, there's a lot of dialogue and cutscenes, but everything is fully voiced and there's a choice to be made almost every minute to keep things fresh and entertaining. It's not like you'll be reading walls of text and silent dialogue for hours like in visual novels. Everything is so interactive here that you'll never feel like you're actually playing one, and guess what? It actually isn't! It's an action RPG with hack and slash elements where you fight small hordes of enemies with usually one party member by your side. Stages are also quite different in design to avoid the repetitive nature of the combat, so it diversifies the gameplay considerably, including the boss fights. No difficulty settings are here, but it shouldn't matter since the challenge is more than balanced. Not hard, but not easy either. So it's perfect for beginners, despite not getting high ratings on popular websites. I strongly recommend this game. As of the making of this video though, it's still an exclusive to the PlayStation 4. Number 7, Atelier Iris, Eternal Mana. Man, why is it that the Iris trilogy isn't rated more highly? Sure, none of them are stellar, but really, only this first one seems to be with acceptable ratings out there. I'd rate it a bit higher, obviously, especially its sequel. Eternal Mana, however, is the one that'll let you more easily into the series for two reasons. One, it's totally different from any other Atelier game out there. You aren't playing a quest-driven adventure with a time limit to complete everything. This, believe it or not, is a traditional styled turn-based RPG where you follow a linear story with regular battles, towns, and overworld, and not a charming airhead as your main character, by the way. Second, gameplay-wise, it's not gonna be a walk in the park, but it's barely gonna give you any issues. Minimum grinding for sure. Also, the synthesis feature is way easier to understand than in any other Atelier game in the series. Besides, it's not required as often as in them. This is definitely a great place to start in JRPGs if you're looking for something different, and hell, if you like it, might as well jump into its sequels, though let me warn you, they are much harder. Currently, however, this game is an exclusive on the PlayStation 2, but it isn't expensive yet. Number 6, Wild Arms 2. This sequel never got the best ratings out there. Contrary to my opinion, since this is one of the best Wild Arm games ever, it's unrelated to its classic predecessor, so it has a standalone story. You control 3 main characters simultaneously until they join up together sooner rather than later. The first hours serve as a very well explained tutorial to understand the game better, but trust me, there's barely anything complicated here, which is why I recommend it for beginners. I think it's got such an unfair rating out there because the story took a turn for the dark, being slightly more mature than the first game, or because the camera views and controls felt different considering it was now fully in 3D with polygons. I'll admit it didn't age marvelously, but it still holds up today, and it's also one of those that are balanced with the minimum amount of grinding involved. This was released on PS1, later with a digital release on PS3. However, Sony published a new digital version on PS4 and 5 with upscaled graphics, which is definitely a good way to play it. Number 5, Soul Hackers 2. Another indirect sequel with such unfair ratings was this little gem. Just like Am Setsuna, I feel people were expecting an extraordinary masterpiece when it didn't even look like one from the trailers. It's a great game for sure, but you're probably wondering, first and foremost, why would I recommend a Megami Tensei game when the series is known for being hardcore? Well, it will surprise you to know this game is one of the easiest of them all. Not exactly easy, mind you, but balanced like every JRPG in today's video. The one anybody can start with and have a great time. Plus, I feel its gameplay mechanics, Demon Fusion included, were simplified precisely with that goal in mind, to have this as a great entry into the Mega 10 universe. Don't be fooled by the character design, it's an odd choice for some characters, I admit that, but the story is still intriguing, dark and mature. No, you don't need to play the first Soul Hackers to understand this one, they're both standalone. You can find this game on PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and Windows. It's also on Project X Cloud, whatever the heck that is. Number 4, Ys 7. For this action RPG, I'm gonna use the exact same argument I did with Tales of Eternia. I believe it's got the ratings it deserves, but I personally would rate it a bit higher. Regardless, my point is the same. The recommended titles are quite often the most modern ones. Not that I disagree, I've always believed you can jump into the Ys series with any of those. Definitely not the older ones, as they will most likely kick your sorry ass so hard, you'll kiss the moon. But 7 rarely gets mentioned as a great entry for beginners. It's overlooked because it isn't available on modern systems, except for one. That's right, Windows. You can play this baby on Steam at any time, like nearly every single JRPG developed by Falcom. These titles got you covered with balanced gameplay, great fast-paced combat, solid controls, progressive challenge as in it gets more difficult as you go, but very rarely insanely difficult. Fact is, it's the first game in the series that really felt like anybody could just pick it up and become a fan. Hell, it's thanks to it that I became a fan of the series myself. Cross your fingers so Falcom can bring it back to modern consoles one day. Number 3, Ark: The Last Twilight of the Spirits. A very good entry into strategy RPGs is the Arc the Lad series. Almost all of them are welcoming to beginners for having a tame difficulty and simple gameplay mechanics. This fourth entry is number 4 in the series, but it is yet another standalone example in the video, no need to play the others. And it's the best one of them all in my opinion. You'll be switching between 2 different parties every episode, so you'll get a better grasp of what to do and what not to do. It really holds your hand in that regard, so you get used to its battle mechanics rather quickly. While it's not an easy game and you'll feel its challenge since the first hours, I doubt you'll have any real trouble with it until the end. Honestly, it's a really good game. Too bad it didn't start getting better reviews and ratings until a few years ago, probably because it was kinda different from its predecessors, apart from having a brand new story in the saga. Ignore that, it's an excellent choice if you're looking to get into JRPGs or strategy JRPGs. It's on PS2, usually dirt cheap, and it also got a digital re-release on PS4 with upscaled graphics. Number 2, Star Ocean: The Divine Force. This is the most popular game on the list, isn't it? So it's probably shocking to you I'm calling it underrated. Well, go ahead and look at the ratings on Metacritic or IGN. I have no idea why the ratings went down since it came out. I personally believe it's one of the best titles in the series. It's got everything most modern gamers usually look for: seamless exploration, open world features, fast-paced combat, hard difficulty settings, easy to break and easy to get into. Nothing convoluted here, although it may take you a few tries to get the basics of the drone, that thing attached to your character's back to help you out in battle. But the reason why I recommend this for beginners is not only because, like every title in the series, it's standalone, but also because it's nowhere near as brutal as most of them. Barely any grinding is required here, even on normal mode. You will definitely encounter some nasty spikes, but I'm sure you'll find a way around them, maybe online. Or you can just rush through those battles on easy mode, nothing wrong with that. Star Ocean 6 is probably a masterpiece, and is one of the best JRPGs in this video. Find it on PS4, PS5, Xbox consoles and Windows. Number 1, .hack GU Last Recode. I've recommended this trilogy several times before because of the same reasons as any other game in this video. It's fantastic, yet it didn't get the best ratings out there. I'm not even sure why, as back in the day people held it in high regard. It aged very well, and it's been remastered on PS4 and Switch nowadays, plus an extra little epilogue episode included. It's very worth playing, especially if you're a beginner. Jumping into this universe is a treat you owe to yourself. It follows up The World, which is a fictional MMORPG seen in the legendary quadrilogy on the PS2. It helps playing those to understand this second saga, sure, but it isn't all that necessary. What I do recommend is watching the anime Roots to understand better some of the characters in this game and their backgrounds, but again, it isn't indispensable. I think you'll be just fine jumping straight into this trilogy and enjoying the heck out of its masterful writing and excellent combat. Grinding will be necessary at some point, but it's worth doing it. If you find the mission design repetitive or the combat, rest assured you'll always be rewarded with a great plot. Definitely start with this badass stack of volumes on PS2 or PS4 or Switch or even Steam. Those are my recommendations of underrated JRPGs for beginners. Never mind the mixed ratings they got, I personally give all of them my very good seal of approval. But in the end, you will have to be the judge. Thanks for watching, don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends. See you next time!